Hi, Jelle.
Hello, Zax.
Thank you for joining me today.
No problem.
Um,
You know I
we
can't
both
resist a good Lifetime movie. It's such a shame
exact.
that good Lifetime movies don't exist.
well, well, that could be debatable. This one might surprise you a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
So today I'm talking to you about A Sister's Nightmare.
Tame title.
Yes, and it is. I I don't know how to really set this up, but what I'm going to ask you throughout this is going to be kind of like a mini personality quiz, a mini choose your own adventure, whatever you want to think of it as. We're going to come to points in this movie where I'm going to ask you, what would you do?
Okay.
And then I'm assuming you'll probably answer with a normal person response.
Mm-hmm.
And in return, we'll get a lifetime response,
Yeah, I
which is
mean, which is all
anything
which
but.
which is always just completely insane.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just jump right into it. The
Mm-hmm.
movie starts really, they just dive right in and a woman is screaming, "No! No!" as like five people are strapping her to a bed, a hospital thingy and belting her down and giving her electric shock therapy like they shove the thing in her
Oh,
mouth, all
oh,
that stuff.
oh,
That's the
okay.
opening.
This could happen
Um
to you, people.
yes. We find out her name is Cassidy. And I don't know how much time has passed, but now she's in the doctor's office and he asks her, would members of your family be in danger if you're released?
What?
And she starts laughing and giggling hysterically as she frantically scribbles on her arm.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "Is there something funny, Cassidy?" And she says, "Yes." And he says, "Would you like to let me in on it?"
Let
And
me
she
get
just
let me
laughed.
let me guess. It's very bold of him to assume that any of them would be safe.
Yes.
I knew it.
Um, well, that might be jumping the gun a bit. So she's drawing on her arm. He's like, "Oh, I see you're still drawing on your arm. What is that?" And she's like, "Oh, just a game." And he says, "What game?" And she just laughs some more. Now, as this doctor,
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on this patient? Are you releasing her right now?
No,
Okay. All right.
I mean that it sounds like somebody needs to do a lot of healing in
Okay.
some way, some form.
Well, as she's like laughing, it sort of is fading out, and we see a glimpse, like little of like flashback, but like it's just split images of like girls and horses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it's the title sequence, so it's just like city shots and the cast and stuff.
And nice music is playing.
Yeah. Forget about that psycho you just saw. We're moving on.
Mm-hmm. Life moves on. It's just a fact.
Yeah, I believe they say 15 years later.
Well, that's quite a
Or
time.
maybe or before the electric shock, it might have been 15 years ago. I'm not sure where they put in the
The
thingy.
timeline is a bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
Mm.
But now we go into, so we saw the city and now we're zooming in on a teenage girl's bedroom and
Oh, that's
she's having
creepy.
night. Well, I guess when you say it like that, then yeah,
Yeah.
it's creepy. but it's not like that. She's having nightmares of herself drowning. And
Mm.
so her mom, this girl's name is Emily, and her mom runs in to comfort her, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay, mommy's here," and she gives her like a pill to put under her tongue, and she's like, "Let it dissolve." Now, a man enters the room. His name is Phil, and if you don't remember anything else of this movie, remember Phil because he is very interesting,
Okay.
and I don't know why they decided he needed to be this way. So teenage girls cleaning her glasses. Phil is the mom's fiance, so he's going to be her stepdad. He's
Mm.
nothing to her technically yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So he comes in cleaning his glasses, and Emma's like, "Sorry, did I wake you?" And he's just like, "Sleep's overrated." so muted, disinterested, and it's like, why did you come here?
Why did you come here? You could have just
Why did you
stayed
stay
in
in your
bed or wherever you
yeah?
were. Like her mom was
and
already there to comfort her. Like you really didn't need to be here, especially if you're that uninterested.
so then the mom is like they have like a little joke. She's like, "You gonna wake me up again?" Like, just kidding. Like, I love you. I'll see you like later. She goes to bed,
Bit
and
of a
like
weird
Phil
joke,
like
but okay.
I mean, I guess this has been her. We found out later she's been having these nightmares since she was 3. So I think it's just
Oh,
like an attempt to sort of like
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
lighten things up. Okay, okay, I get it.
yeah. She has like severe aquaphobia, as we'll find out.
Ah,
So yeah. So and then Phil like takes the mom back to bed, and it's like, why, Phil? Why do you do the things you do? What
why
moves
were
you?
you here?
And that's a question just gonna keep asking. So next
Okay,
scene,
good.
M's. That's the only
My
question I
favorite type
ask.
of character, the type of character where you're just constantly like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?"
Yeah. So Emma's walking with her best friend, who looks like she's 12, but has like dark hair with one red streak on the side.
Ah,
But
she's
they're in high
cosplaying as Shadow
school.
the Hedgehog.
Yes, actually. Oh my gosh, yes, that's real accurate.
Oh,
Actually, you haven't even seen her.
I
That's
was just
so.
making a joke.
But
Oh
as you
no.
said it, it fit. Oh my gosh, like where it's. Oh, that's.
Well, now I
Oh,
have to.
that's.
Now I'll have to watch the movie.
So they're walking, and her best friend's like, "You need to get over your water fear and go to swim lessons. How
Oh
else are
my
we gonna be in
god.
college together?"
That's not how
And then
phobias work.
And then she's like, I'm trying. And then she's like, but also, if you quit going to your swim lessons, you can just say goodbye to Mr. Hottie, which
Ugh.
is uh, so, and then they're like, oh my gosh, stop. So they're having normal teenage girl things.
Mm-hmm.
Now we go back to the state hospital. Remember that opening scene? We're gonna see her
Yeah.
again. Yeah. She's leaving the hospital. And an orderly's like, "Hey, Cassidy, heard you're leaving. Here's a bottle of pills. Doctor said this should hold you until you're an outpatient." I don't know what that means, but that's what he said.
I mean, it's just so
Like,
she has enough pills until they
but
can get
like,
all
isn't
that
she
sorted.
already an isn't she
I,
already an
I,
outpatient?
I guess.
Because she's
Yeah.
not in.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, why like you would imagine that she already has like a prescription or whatever to
Things settle something.
yeah.
But okay, so spoiler alert: we never see this orderly ever again. The whole movie.
Oh man, my
But
favorite character.
But as she's walking out, he's like has his arms crossed and he has a smile and he's shaking his head, looking at her like, "You're gonna do great out there, Cass. Like, I'm rooting for
Oh.
you." And it's like, and I was like, "Did you guys like have something going?" Because he looks real young too, and I'm like, "She's been here like 15 years. Like, what is your?" But it doesn't matter because we don't
what
see him
what
again.
is your
So
relationship to
I
this
mean,
patient? Is this ethical?
I guess what I was just thinking, I guess there really are no small roles. Like, he gave it his all, I guess.
I mean, you
But,
know what? A for effort.
yeah. But we never see him again. And the second she's like
No, I mean
out, like, she's.
that's why he had to give it his all. That was your only impression you were gonna get of that guy. So he
I
had to do
guess
his best.
he did leave an impact on me.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
apparently, because you're talking about him right now.
yeah. So that guy, he sold it. But anyway, so she leaves, like, she's not even out of the hospital yet, and she throws away the bottle of pills. So
Oh, that's a good
that's a
start.
good sign. Yeah. But then she sees like a poster with a horse on it on the wall, and in her head, like she hears like a gunshot, and she looks like a little jumpy. Like, so horses are gonna be like a big deal in this
Mm-hmm.
movie. So the mom from earlier, she's downstairs. Her name's Jane, and she's like looking up like phobia therapies and stuff online. And then Phil comes downstairs, or he gives her a cup of coffee and is like, hmm, she's getting kind of older. Maybe she should just figure it out on her own.
Wow.
Like, I mean, maybe this isn't how, but like, what kind of person would just be like, well, I see my daughter suffering all the time.
Well, clearly,
One Google search isn't gonna like take away from anything. Like,
no.
I
Also, like, what
like
age is she again?
she's 15.
Yeah, okay. So she's also underage still.
Yeah, like I don't
Like
know
that
what.
kind of stuff, kind of, at least here, that has to go through one's parents partially.
Yeah,
there's parts of that that need to,
yeah.
whatever.
And like it's just weird because he's like gives her his coffee and he's like, you've been doing this for a long time. Why don't you just give up already? Like,
What
why are you
the?
trying to marry into
What?
this family, Phil? What do you
Phil,
have to gain?
what are you doing, Phil? What the hell, man?
Exactly. And then
What?
so then we find out that Jane's a cop. And she goes into work and she's like, "Hey boys," or stuff, and like she's beloved or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The her boss, I don't know if he's the captain or sergeant, whatever he is, but he announces that they've got new surveillance equipment and GPS trackers, and he's like, "So this is not just for narcotics; anyone can use them, but you just have to clear it with me first."
Right. Okay.
And then we
Sure.
find out that Jane has a new partner. I forgot what his name was. I forgot to write it down. Maybe they never told me. I don't know, but it's not here.
Partner
So
guy.
yeah. So they're in the car and he offers her a cigarette and she's like, no. And he's like, what? A cop with no vices? And she's like, I chew gum.
A
Sometimes
cop
I like
with
to
no.
crack it.
Wow, amazing. Refuses a cigarette. First response: a cop with no vices. That's like
Like,
that's
you only
such.
checked one vice
You
off.
only checked one off. There are plenty of people that don't have smoking as their vice.
Yeah.
There are
And then she's
some
like,
like whatever.
yeah. And yeah. And she's just like, I quit when I like had my daughter. Like, or found out, like, yeah, I quit once I had my daughter, or whatever. So
Yeah.
they talk backstories and stuff, and like, um, they kind of like she's like, "Are you ever been married?" And he's like, "No, never saw a reason to." And it's like kind of like flirty almost, and it's like,
But don't you
okay.
have Phil? I mean, I get if you wouldn't be that
I,
interested in Phil, because Phil doesn't seem very interested in anything.
I
So you
mean,
know.
yeah, maybe it's like an emotion, like she's just getting her like concern fix out of the partner, and then she'll go home to the passionless life she's built with Phil.
You know, she wants some emotion, but not too much. So she has Phil
Yeah,
as like her safe haven of just no emotion
nothing.
whatsoever.
Oh my gosh, I love you so much, Phil. You give me nothing.
You give me exactly nothing.
So, so now we go to the swim lessons. It's called like H2O. I wonder if that's like the real center or something. I don't know.
I don't
But
know,
they
but
want
you know
to,
what? As a chemist, I can appreciate that.
yeah.
I also
So,
think it's very dumb. But that's my non-chemist part of me saying that.
yeah. But, so she's really scared because she's basically scaling the wall to keep as much distance between her and the pool as possible.
Ah.
And so, like our friend was mentioning before, Mr. Hottie, the swim instructor, he's in the pool and he is helping another student
Mhm.
float. So he's like, okay, you got it, good, good.
Right. Yeah.
Um, then he notices her. And he immediately lights up a big smile and he's like, okay, now try it on your own and walks off. And like the woman immediately falls into the pool and is like drowning.
Oh,
He just bailed on her. They were practicing floating.
I thought you were a professional doctor, like Mr.
Well,
Hottie, but apparently you're
uh,
just a goof.
and it was funny because like he has like a supervisor who's like shaking his head at him, and like
Oh,
it's,
wow. So the movie even acknowledges no, bad, dude,
mm-hmm.
bad.
But he goes up to her and he's like, "So, you gonna get in the pool today?" And she's like, "I don't know." And it's like weird because like it doesn't seem like they know about her aquaphobia, and it seems like when the mom was enrolling her into swim lessons, that would have been part of it. It also seems like
Yeah.
she would just have like a real therapist like there with her or
Yeah, you
something.
would imagine that some kind of mental health professional or whatever is there to help her with this debilitating fear.
Yeah, like her mom isn't even there. Nobody's there.
She has
So,
no emotional support. She just has this weird guy who's being kind of flirty?
yeah. Because then he's like, my boss is already mad that I just bailed on the class. So, like, don't make me
Maybe
look
you
too bad.
shouldn't have done that.
And then she just leaves. But now she's walking home with her friend, and so they wanted to emphasize like the fact that the student he was currently helping wasn't as attractive as our 15-year-old star, I guess, because the best friend's like, you let
Uh,
him hold some fat lady all day, and
oh
it's
my god.
like rude. She's a student just like everybody else. It's not
She's a
like,
student. Also, I don't know how old this Mr. Hottie is.
well, we're gonna get into that later because that's gonna erase
Okay.
some interesting things that
Okay,
now
good.
that you
I'm
mention it.
I'm glad that we're gonna get into that. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah. So she's on the walk home. She gets home. Cassidy, who just escaped the asylum, is standing right outside their door.
Mhm.
Oh, to the house. And then Emily walks up to her and she's like, "Hey, are you lost?" And now Cassidy was staring at the house with the most vacant expression. Who knows what kind of flashbacks are racing through her head at this
Yeah.
moment.
It sounds to me like she should not yet have been, released from the hospital.
Yeah, we don't know. But Emily definitely doesn't know. She walks up to her, and like this woman is like wearing like her hair slicked back in a ponytail. She got a black jacket on. She just looks like total stranger danger.
Yeah.
What information are you giving this woman standing outside your house?
I nothing, and I would ask her to leave.
Well, Cassidy says, I'm looking for Jane Ryder's house. And then Emily is like, yeah, this is her house. I'm her daughter. Hi. Come
I
on in. And then she brings her into the house.
I definitely like. Okay, so if she had been like, I'm looking for person name, and that person is then my mom, I would have been like, yeah, she is not home. Maybe you could try again later, and then ask her to leave.
Well, oh,
I would not invite her in.
she invited her into the house.
Yeah,
And,
because she's a dumb teenager.
yeah, and then, and then Jane sees her sister, who last she knew was in a psychiatric hospital. So she's noticeably shook.
Yeah?
And she's like, what are you doing here? Kind of stuff. Like that whole thing.
Yeah,
And
also the
then,
shock of like, huh, what?
yeah. And then she's like, oh, well, they released me, sis. I just need to stay here a few days to get back on my feet. And, then, like, and then, like, the sister's like, I don't, I
Did
guess that
nobody
would
didn't
be
what
okay.
was nobody told of this? And if
Nobody was notified.
okay, so nobody was notified. So I was about to ask, so, and like, because you would imagine that
Mhm.
Jane, the mom of this child or this person, would have been notified that she has been released from the mental hospital.
Yeah. You would think such a thing. But
Welcome to
then,
Lifetime movies. They exist.
so
I'm
she
still,
walks
I'm
in.
still, I'm the only thing we need for bingo now is the unintentional lesbians.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're gonna get those. We might. Hold
Hmm.
up.
Might not get a
So,
full. We might not get a full movie bingo with this one. Hmm.
yeah. But, okay, so then Phil, like, he's holding a book. He's standing and he, like, looks up from his book, like, hmm, new person in my home. Hmm. That's about all we get from Phil. So
I
now
mean,
he's
that's
walking
that's that's
around.
in character.
So she has to stay for a few days. She walks in further into the house, and she's looking around. She's like, "It's so private. You could do whatever you want here, and no one would ever know." Cause
Okay.
that's something you say. And then
Yep.
Jane looks visibly shook.
That's
Um,
normal human speech behavior.
yeah. And then she's like, "Oh, they just watched your every move in the hospital. That's all that was." And then
Sure.
Emily and Phil actually, Emily has spent a lot of time with Phil. Because, like, she also is kind of disinterested in all this. But then she's like, Mom, you said your sister died in a car crash. And I'm like, why can't you wait like 3 seconds to ask your mom that? Like, pull her aside. We don't know who this. You barely know who this woman is. Your mom doesn't seem to want this woman here.
Yeah,
Why are you bringing up that she lied about her dying in a car crash right here and now?
yeah. Like,
So,
there's times and places for things. This didn't
mhm,
seem like the time nor the place.
yeah. So then Jane shows Cassidy to her room, and she basically is like, "Here, you can sleep in like the basement. And I'll let you know when dinner's ready." And then she leaves her in the room, and then Jane has a flashback of a blood splattered tile floor. So what happened there? I think
Ooh,
we'll find out soon or
ooh,
later. And
maybe.
then maybe, depending on how Lifetime feels about it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. If the gods are gracious, then
because we're not
maybe
gonna
they will
find
bestow knowledge upon us.
yeah, because we're not gonna find out what happened with that orderly. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Again,
so
favorite character.
yes, 10 out of 10, good boy. So then Phil is like, I thought your sister was in a long term psych facility. And Jane's like, yeah, I don't know what she's doing here. And then Emily's like, why are you guys whispering? And they're like, oh, nothing, honey. She's like, I wish you wouldn't treat me like a child. Why'd you say your sister was dead? Is it because she's in a hospital? And then it's like, she's around the corner. Maybe that
Yeah.
is why. You don't know what
Mm.
happened. Why are you. So
Yeah,
then,
that's called jumping the gun a bit. I think like
that's all this girl
it,
knows
it
how to
just sounds it
do.
just sounds like she's insinuating all like these accusations and stuff, and it's like you don't know what the situation is like. At least maybe ask it honestly, and you might get an answer.
Yeah. So now they're at dinner, and she's like, what? You guys haven't talked in years? And then the mom tries to like awkwardly play it off like, oh, we're not from your generation. We didn't really do online chatting and stuff. And then Cassidy's like, they're just being polite. Um, and then it comes up that Phil made the meatloaf that they're eating. And so Cassidy seductively takes a bite of the meatloaf and says, I'd love to have a man like you.
Okay.
That's yeah. So then she asks Emily which of the two of them looks older, and she's just like, I think you're both beautiful.
That's very diplomatic of her.
Yeah, and then Cassidy's like, you raised such a smart daughter. And then so basically it was a very
Very
awkward
awkward and
dinner.
painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but when they're doing dishes later, Phil's like, is it safer to be here? Like, what was that about? And
Oh hey,
so
wow! Phil is expressing emotion. He is
I
showing
mean,
concern.
yeah. I mean, he didn't emote that much in the question, but he did at least ask the question.
Yeah, he expressed it purely through words,
Yes.
not
Uh,
tone, not body language, just words.
like, so then, Cassidy asked Emily to play chess with her. So I think we can assume that when she was drawing those black squares on her arm in the doctor's office, that was the game she was thinking of.
I mean, you're gonna
And
need a lot of arm space to make a full chessboard. I'll tell you that much.
it was only like 4 squares.
That's not a chessboard.
But like, I don't
Isn't the chessboard like I believe it's like six? Isn't it like 32 by 32 or something or six?
yeah.
Something like that. I
I
don't
don't
know
know what
exactly. I
they
don't play chess.
Me either. But it's also weird too because like she's like we used to play all the time when we were younger, and then Emily's like yeah I play with my mom. She always lets me be white when we play, and she's like okay I like to play black, and so then the mom is like watching them play, and she has another flashback this time of a dead man over a bathtub.
Oh.
So they're giving us a little bit more of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Then that's pretty much that. But now it's the middle of the night, and Jane hears movement downstairs.
Well,
Also, she has a picture of Emily on her nightstand.
also real quick, I looked it up, but a chessboard is an 8 by 8 grid. So
Mm.
yeah, good luck drawing that on your arm. Also, you're gonna need more than 2 by 2.
Maybe it was like the kind of thing where she was gonna start with her arm and then put some on her torso, kind of thing. So like
I mean, at that point, just use your torso. That's
for the whole
probably,
deal.
yeah, that's probably enough space. Like, you can draw a small chessboard on your torso. Whatever.
That'd make too much sense for her to do, and then the
That would
doctor can
make
see how crazy she is.
that would make too much sense for a Lifetime movie, is I think what you mean.
Yes. Um. So okay, yeah. So then she goes to the kitchen, and Cassidy's there, and she's like, "What are you doing out of your room?" And she's like, "I wanted to get some water," which is reasonable. But
Yeah.
then Jane's like, "I left a bottle in your room, so there's no need for you to ever leave your room."
Don't get out here, is what she's basically saying.
Yeah. And then she's like, "Oh, I must have missed it." But then we go back to her room and we see not only was the water bottle right there,
Mm-hmm.
like, because I was thinking, I mean, she could have finished that. She could have wanted more water.
Sure.
Like, potentially, but she didn't. She needed to go out. And then she has like a kitchen knife. She took a kitchen knife and then she pokes her finger with it.
Uh-huh. What
Like,
was
I think to test how sharp it was, because, like, it drew some blood from a little
why
poke.
why was how was this woman released again?
Because that orderly put in a real good word for her, I
I
guess.
guess, yeah. You know what? No longer my favorite character.
So then, so Jane is like, so then we have another flashback where Jane is calling 911 to report the murder. And, uh, then
Wait, hold
she,
on. Was I not paying attention? Whose murder?
the guy, first there was the blood splattered tile. Then we see a dead man over a bathtub, and now we see
Oh,
Jane reporting that murder. So this is
okay.
why she was in the hospital, why Cassidy was in the hospital in the beginning.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So now Jane is like, "Okay, that was shady. Why was she in the kitchen?" So her plan is she moves a chair to the front of Cassidy's room so she can keep watch. But the next morning, Phil wakes her up and he's like, "Why'd you sleep down here?" And she's like, I I heard Cassidy in the kitchen and I wanted to make sure that I wanted to keep an eye on her." And then he's like, "I think you're worrying about your sister a little too much. You could have just wanted a bite to eat." And she's like, "Whisper, she might hear you." And he's like, "She already left." So
Wow.
like, you're terrible at keeping watch.
Yeah. That and apparently, well, you don't even need to be that heavy of a sleeper. Like, somebody can just go through a door. That doesn't make that much noise. So
Yeah.
yeah, like, very spur of the moment, she was actually dead tired.
Yeah. So she's still freaked out and she's like, "Well, I have to go. I made an appointment at the hospital." And Phil's like, "All right." So,
I mean, that's Phil.
yeah, classic Phil.
Shrug, whatever.
So she goes to the hospital and she's talking with the doctor, and he's like, "Well," or the new guy in charge. And when she's walking into the hospital, they have these extras who are acting crazy, and like,
Oh,
they
good.
really commit.
That's always so great and totally
Yeah.
not an awful representation of people with mental disorders, but whatever.
There's yeah, there's an old woman flailing her arms around Jane, going like cackling and going like like I'm crazy. And it's
Uh,
it's like, yeah, that's definitely the only people you see there.
yup, sure.
so so anyway, so she gets to his office and she's like, "What, like, what is going on? The doctor told me she would like never be released, basically." And he's like, "Well, he had a debilitating stroke that was really sudden. Um
That's not suspicious at
and
all at this point in a movie like
right,
this.
right. And then he's like, and I know that But like she responded really well to the meds, so we think she's good to get back into society. But, reintegration can be really hard on families. I understand that. So, how does
Also,
he
nobody was notified is also
nobody
an issue.
Yeah, well, what do you think he does to assuage her concerns?
I mean, if she really was you know responding well to medication, I mean, maybe give her some pointers on how she can maybe help with reintegration, or maybe explain that there is still patient out care or something like that to help with that, and
Well,
maybe
he
apologize for not notifying anyone.
those are all very good suggestions. And I guess you could say he kind of does that. He hands her a brochure that literally looks like he made it off of Microsoft Word.
Oh,
Like
that's X.
it doesn't even look like laminated or any or like it just looks
It
like
doesn't
an
look
8
like
by
there was.
11
it,
folded
it
in
doesn't
3.
look it doesn't even look like some kind of like graphic designer like even took a look at that or
No, it doesn't. I
anything.
don't.
Literally
Yeah,
just homemade. Hey, I have Microsoft Word, I don't need any of this fancy software nonsense.
I don't even think there's like a clip art image on the front of it.
Oh my god.
It's just a piece of paper folded in 3 with some print on the front.
Oh my. Oh, at least when I went into when I got some psychiatric help for reasons, at least when I got a brochure, it was a very nice professional looking brochure.
hmm But forget about that because we're going back to high school.
Ah, good, yes,
Yeah,
of
forget
course.
about whatever's
That's
going on there.
right. There's also a teenager in this movie, as there always is.
Yeah. So Emily and her best friend are sitting like in the front of the school talking and
Yeah,
giggling. And
just
guess who
Emily
they
and just,
spot?
just Emily and Shadow the Hedgehog, right?
Yes. Guess who they see?
Is it Crazy Sister?
Well, she's watching from the parking lot. But
Oh,
no.
good. So she is there and creepy. That's good to know.
Yes. But who they do spot is Mr. Hottie,
Of
the swim
course they
instructor.
do.
And he's and he sees them and he comes right over. And
Oh, stop being
uh,
creepy.
so her first thing is, "Hey, what are you doing here? Didn't you graduate last year?" So in America that makes him at least 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 15.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is always fun when a Lifetime movie makes me Google the age of consent, which in Oregon is 14 years old. So, it's
Okay.
okay, but like the fact that you made me have to Google that, why couldn't he just be a senior who volunteers at the pool?
Yeah, you could have made it and even then, I mean, you could then also, of course, make arguments for what the age of consent should be. I personally don't think it should be 14. I personally think it should be older. Then again, there's some bias there, considering in my country it's just 18 across the board, 21 for hard liquor. But still, yeah, the fact that you feel like you have to look it up, like, is this okay? Is this kosher?
Yeah. Also, just the
Mm,
fact that, like, because, like, I had no reason to think he didn't belong at the high school at first. You made me question it when you're like, I thought you graduated last year. You know what? I didn't need to know that. You could have just left that out of it.
yeah, you could have
But the
just
reason,
left it in the
also,
middle.
and this is just another thing that I just took some issue with. Maybe I'm being nitpicky here, but they're like, because the question still remains, what are you doing here? You graduated last year. Well, the old art teacher asked him to come, basically to help motivate the students. You haven't even been out of high school a full year.
Yeah,
You're gonna be a swim instructor, and like, there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean
But
that's
like,
fine, sure,
yeah,
whatever.
like you have a job.
Good
But like,
job.
what what do you have to tell these kids?
Yeah,
You've
how are you
barely
looking? How are you looking to motivate them? You've barely done anything yet.
a lot. You know what? But that's
And you know what?
apparently
And you know what? Even then, it's like, okay, let's look at this from a different angle.
okay.
Um, let's say, for sake of example, instead of now being a swim instructor, he went on to college and he's now studying
Hmm.
whatever it is that might interest him. Like at most they could ask him to come back and maybe talk to the students about how he figured stuff out, like college applications, or or how financial situations, or housing, like that kind of stuff. Maybe like that could be something that he might come
Hmm.
back for. But to motivate them to do what? Finish high school? And if so, why him? He only just graduated. And
Yeah, like,
otherwise, maybe ask one of your seniors, to motivate people to make it at least to senior year or something. Like, there's so many
yeah.
different angles you can take this from that would make so much more sense.
But that's like a common thing in like shows apparently because I remember this episode of Pretty Little Liars where this guy, he's like 26 at the time or whatever, his name's Jason. He came to the school and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, the guidance counselor wanted me to like talk to the young stoners about how it gets better." And I'm like, "You have no leg to stand on. You're literally a trust fund baby. Do they have
Yeah,
trust fund fortunes
do they
waiting
have
for
trust
them?"
fund? I
Like,
mean, I
no,
mean
they
that
don't.
also. I mean that also. Not everybody who does recreational drugs does it because they're depressed or
Like, it
whatever. Like
was
some people just do it because they can.
so apparently high schools are just like, "Hey, I know you. Can you just come talk to these kids? I don't have anything else
Yeah,
going on." That's literally
yeah.
it.
Apparently, that's what high schools do. They just ask, "Hey, you were here once, and you did fine. Talk to these people that you have there's no reason for you to know what they're going through. Talk to them and make them see that things get better."
Basically.
No, no.
Yeah. So,
Maybe at least find someone who was actually like struggling with maybe addiction or anything. Like maybe that would actually help or do something.
nah, we're just gonna find unqualified people to talk with kids who may or may not even want this.
Yeah.
So then, so he's like, "What's it gonna take to get you in the pool? My supervisor's like judging me or whatever." And she's like, "Oh, keep trying." And he's like, "Okay, check you later." And then he
You
leaves.
already asked it, but does nobody know about her aquaphobia?
I keep asking you because we're gonna get into like that even later.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so they start walking home, and then Cassidy shows up, and then she's like, "Hi, what are you doing here?" She's like, "Oh, I was just out for a walk. Where are you going?" And she's like, "Oh, walking home." Okay, well, bye. Enjoy your walk. And as they're walking off, the best friend is like, "She's kind of weird." And then Emily's like, "I know, right?" And Cassidy is right there and clearly hears this, and she looks so heartbroken.
Oh,
But
that's
at the
so sad.
like they weren't that far away and they were like loudly whispering like
At least actually whisper, or wait until you know
at
that
least
there's some distance between you.
at least get around the corner.
Yeah, something like that. At least turn a corner and then actually whisper. And don't just stage whisper.
Yeah, like she's kind of weird. I know, right? Like, ugh, weirdo. We played chess together. But like
Ew.
also if you think she's weird, then
Her
like
her crazy might be contagious.
but like you don't even know that she's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
You just know that your mom lied about her dying in a car crash.
yeah, like,
So then
oh, whatever. Let's
yeah.
move on.
So they're walking home, and then she's on duty in the police car with her partner, and she's like, "Hey, I'll give you girls a ride home." And the partner's kind of like, do you do this a lot? Like, that's kind of weird. But as he's driving them home, she gives Emily a phone. I forget if they really established that earlier, but I guess she never had a phone
Okay.
because the mom like wasn't really big on it, but now we know it's because she wants to have access to her at all times because Cassidy's around.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like it's a thing of, oh no, my sister, there is some history there that we don't know yet where she's concerned because of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at home, Cassidy's in their bedroom and feels like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I guess I took a wrong turn." And he's like, "Okay, well, the stairs to the basement are down there." And then she's like, "Okay." And he kind of looks like he senses a disturbance in the force. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
picture of Emily is missing.
Ah.
But he just sort of looks and he's like, okay. So, once again, get him, Phil.
Oh my god, Phil. Why?
So he goes to her. So
What
then
is your
later,
malfunction, friend?
don't know. How did they get together? What moved these
What
two people to start a life?
what was their romantic connection? Like, I want to
Oh,
know what their first date was like.
yeah. Ugh. Okay. So Cassidy goes to Emily's room and she's like writing in a notebook and she has music on in her like she's listening to headphones and
Mm-hmm.
Cassidy's looking around and she's like, "Oh, I didn't hear you come in." And so they start talking and then we see that her room has a bunch of like water, ocean pictures, fish, like all sorts of stuff all over it. Um they
Mm-hmm.
talk about like how she can't swim. Then Emily asks, "Why were you in the hospital?" And she says, "I had a breakdown." And then
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "I got you something. Here's a CD, my Nirvana." And then Emily's like, "I don't have a CD player." And she's like, and she again looks so heartbroken.
I
Because
mean,
it
I
was,
would also be heartbroken because it's like, how do you not have a CD player?
well, she just listens to music on her tablet.
Do you not
So
have a
she,
computer? You can also put a CD in that.
I guess not.
Maybe people these days just don't have they just don't have disk drives anymore.
Maybe it's 20. I
It's
forget.
all it's all just USB sticks and SD cards sometimes, I
Yeah.
guess.
And Bluetooth. You don't need anything
Yeah,
else.
exactly. You don't even need to plug anything in.
Yeah.
I have never seriously used Bluetooth in my life.
My truck has a Bluetooth connection, but it still has a CD drive. So.
Yeah. So you just yeah.
So Jane comes in, she's like, "What's going on here?" And then Emily's like, "You're home early." But then Jane takes a CD and she's like, "Oh, well, you don't have a CD player, so I'm just going to leave it in the car. We could play it there." And then Cassidy's
Weird, but
like,
okay if you
"I
have no
guess
other
I,
options.
yeah." And then Cassidy's like, "I guess I'll leave the room now." And then she's like, "Why'd you take the CD away?" And she's like, "Well, you can't play it." And she's like, "Why'd you cut her out of your life? Is it because?" And then she's like, "Because she's mentally unstable. She hurts the people she's supposed to love." And then
Uh,
and then Emily's like not really like buying it, but then the mom just changes the subject. She's like, "What are you doodling?" And she's like, "Oh, just homework." She's like, "Oh, that's why there are these hearts all over it." So then they just talk normally.
very smooth, mom.
Yeah. Something else that's interesting that a lot of Lifetime movies do that I don't know if we watched this a lot of these types where together, but basically in these type of movies where like unwanted relative comes back, they
I
do
mean,
this thing where um Jane, the mom, progressively starts to look worse and worse, and Cassidy progressively starts to look better and better.
that they also do that with like Lifetime movies wherein like a couple is broken up and then there's like a new love interest who is, actually quote unquote crazy, but you know does look better and better, whereas like the ex starts to look more and more like she's like jealous or something. Like
Yeah,
that
and
is
like
something that also happens in those types of Lifetime movies a lot.
yeah. I think it's just really pronounced here because like every time Cassidy just has more and more of this glow to her and Jane like gets deeper and deeper bags under her eyes. Like she's getting
Mm,
progressively more and more paranoid and everything.
right.
And they have this weird standoff in the kitchen and Cass says, "I'm taking her with me." And Jane says, "Don't be ridiculous."
Oh.
And then that's the end of that. So now Jane is
That's
sitting
well, let's just brush that off.
Jane is sitting on the edge of her bed, looking super bothered. Phil was reading a book, and then he sighs, and
Of
he's like,
course, he's not helpful.
"You okay?" And then she answers, and she's like, And then she notices that the picture of Emily's missing. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, your sister was in here earlier, but I doubt she'd just take it without asking."
Why do
And
you
then,
doubt that, Phil?
wait, and then Jane is like, why was she in here? He's like, "Well, she got lost, apparently." Anyway, try to relax. And she's like, "I can't." So then he goes to sleep.
Oh
And
my
then,
god, Phil.
he lays in the bed and he's clearly getting ready. And then she like lays down. She's just laying in bed. Her eyes are wide open. He just bare bones taps her hand, like, "You'll be fine."
Just taps her hand like it'll be okay. I
There,
make this
there.
completely empty. Yeah, there.
And
Like the only way it could be more weird if he actually patted her on the head.
so then the next scene, Phil is drinking some coffee and he's reading, and he hears drilling. So he gets up and he's like, "Jane, I'm studying for my midterms. Do you have to do this now?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm done." And she put a lock on Emily's door, her
Oh.
bedroom door. Yes. So,
Okay, are
um,
you gonna give Emily the key or are you gonna lock her in?
we later find out she does give Emily a key.
Okay,
Um,
good. I was really worried for a second.
well, I mean, you could still be a little worried.
I am very worried because it's a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, so then she goes to work, and Cassidy's at the police station because when they had that standoff, she showed her apartments in the paper. And she was like, "I'll even help you look for them." So she came to take her up on that. And she's like, "No, I have to work. So you should just go wait for me at home." And she's like, "Okay." She was talking to Jane's partner. And the partner is like, "She was nice, chatty." And she's like, "I'm sorry about her." No, she seems, and like it kind of sounds like he's gonna say like nice or something, but then he's
Yeah.
just like, "She seems attractive. She's single," and I'm just like,
Oh.
I kind of like that you don't play games. I guess whatever your name is,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, sure. Points for honesty, my dude.
mhm.
But those points don't weigh up against the minus points that you get for asking your partner if her sister is single.
Yeah, but like, oh well. So then she's just like, "You don't want any of that." The next morning, Phil is woken up. So the only time Phil emphasizes any or like emotes at all is when he's been bothered. Because he wakes up by Emily's heavy breathing and panting. And he's like, "What's that?" And then we find out that she
No,
set up a baby monitor.
what? What?
Jane set up a baby monitor in her 15-year-old daughter's room.
Jane. Jane,
And then he shuts it
Jane.
off.
Jane, I realize that you're worried now that your crazy sister is back, but maybe try to relax just a smidge.
Well, okay. So he shuts off. He's like we're gonna sleep with that on all night. And she's like, "Millions of parents do." And he's like, for babies.
Yeah,
For babies,
he's
they do that."
not wrong. It's called a baby monitor for a reason.
And he's like, "All right." He even takes off his glasses, I think. And he's like, "Okay, the truth now." So she gets up and she takes out an envelope from, I believe, her bathroom and gives it to him.
Why do you have an envelope in your bath?
I really
How
want to
has like the
know.
steam from your shower not ruined that letter yet?
Well, anyway, she hands it to him and he opens it up and it's pictures of a crime scene. Specifically, the crime scene from those flashbacks earlier.
So that's like 15 years ago?
Yeah.
How are those pictures not ruined by the steam of your bathroom?
It's so weird. It's like, did she. And I don't. It raised so many questions. But whatever reason, she gives him. And
Why
Phil's
the
even.
bathroom?
And he sees a dead
That's gonna
body and
bother me so much.
it's. When we watch it together, it's going to bother you even more. So then.
Great.
And then he's like. Even his "oh my god" and a dead man over a bathtub covered in blood is so underwhelming.
Yeah, he's just like, I imagine he's just like, oh my god,
Egad.
why are you showing me this?
So so he's like, what's going on? What is this? Um, and then she says that Cassidy has borderline personality disorder. And
Mm-hmm.
she gives the whole story. So, flashback to when they were kids. Cassidy wanted anything that belonged to Jane. Her mother gave her a doll for her birthday, and then Cassidy was like fighting with her and like ripped its head off and was like, "That serves you right for not giving it to me in the first place, Jane." And then she walks off. And then in the voiceover, Jane says that Cassidy used to threaten her that if she tattled, she would tell people at school that she still wet the bed, or now, just that's typical sibling meanness
Mm-hmm.
there, right? Okay. Tell
Yeah,
me
it
how
seems
this
fairly
next
normal.
one fits into sibling rivalry. So she would tell people that I wet the bed or burn down our farmhouse with me and my mom inside.
Um,
And she says it just like that, so matter of fact. Which is, I guess, I heard filler a good match.
um,
She says it almost wistfully, like,
I
if I
remember when she burned down the farmhouse
if I
with
tattle.
me and my mom still inside the building.
So anyway, she's like, it was so
That is
horrible.
perfectly normal and healthy thing to do.
Siblings. What else are they gonna do?
Yeah,
So,
sometimes they steal your shampoo and sometimes they burn your house down with you
like,
in it.
like you do. So then she's like, to get out of that house, as soon as she was 18, she went to the police academy. But they wound up finding each other again, and Cassidy married this guy, Brian. And she was like, well, she seemed a lot better and nicer than when we were kids. So, like, I forgave her and, like, I went back into their life. So it goes to this dinner, and Brian is wearing the same shirt that he's wearing when he's dead over the bathtub. So you know that this is the night. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they're sitting down, and he's like, you shouldn't be drinking on your medication. And
Fair.
she's like drinking the wine. She's like, whatever. And then Jane is like, well,
Maybe they shouldn't have given her wine in the first place. Just a thought.
yeah.
Maybe there just shouldn't have been wine. Here's an idea. Here's an idea for people. I mean, it's going to sound crazy, but here's an idea for
Mhm.
people. If you have a person in your home who is taking medication that you shouldn't mix with alcohol, maybe you people around them should also not drink alcohol for a bit.
Yeah. I'm like,
Shocking revolutionary idea, I know.
yeah. And then Jane's trying to diffuse it a little bit, and she's like, Brian, why don't you like take her for her bath or something? And he's like, yeah, okay. So he takes the baby away, and like Jane like plays with it for a little bit, and Cassidy is like, he's just bitter that I stopped breastfeeding, but I want my body back. And then Jane is like, I mean,
Oh,
maybe you've had like a little too much wine, Cassidy. She's like, oh, whatever. And she gets up. And then Jane sips her wine uncomfortably, like, this is an awkward
yeah.
evening. And then just hears two gunshots in the background.
Oh,
And like,
that's
that
really sudden.
yeah, it was super sad. I was like, was there a time lapse? Because like we saw her walk off as she picked up the glass of wine, and then two gunshots, like before she even set it back down.
Like where? Like did she have the gun on her person? Did she sprint the moment she left the camera? Like the view of like this moment she left the screen, she just sprinted, pull out a gun, and just bam bam.
Yeah. So we flash back to the present, and then Phil has a hand on her back, and he's sort of rubbing it a little bit, and he hugs her, and he's like,
Wow,
"Did
Phil,
she?"
so much emotion. Are you okay, my dude?
I know. Then he's like, "Did did she kill the baby?" And then he's like, no, Emily is Cassidy's daughter. And so
Oh.
what happened was the dad was giving her a bath, and she shot him, and she's gonna shoot herself. But when she shot him, he dropped the baby, and
Yeah.
she fell into the tub, and that's why she's aquaphobic, because she almost drowned. Jane saved her from
I
drowning.
I don't think that's how trauma works. Mainly because that
That's
was a baby. She won't remember that.
Well, apparently she started having her first nightmares when she was 3. I don't know.
Okay,
That's what they
sure.
said.
That's kind of ridiculous. Whatever. Hand wavy, wavy hand. I mean, clearly, people who write Lifetime movies, there's a few things they don't know about at all. One of those is mental health.
Mhm.
The other is normal interhuman relationships.
Mhm.
And
Although they did,
those are the main important things they don't know about.
and those are the only things they choose to write about.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's honestly it's kind of magical if you think about it.
Yes, but they do know lesbians. They
I
do.
mean, those are always unintentional. So they also, I mean, that's the thing. They also don't know normal like friendships between women. They also don't know how those work.
I guess it's all just a
there's
blessing in
always this
disguise.
there's
Uh,
always this romantic subtext behind it. It's amazing.
yeah. Okay, so then Cassidy's in the basement and she's having flashbacks of children laughing or something, and she just looks generally crazy. So, mom Jane reminds Emily to use the lock on her door because there have been recent break-ins. And again, minor nitpick, because then Emily's just like, oh, okay, because she's like, I'm getting locks on our doors too. It's not just you. But like,
Uh-huh.
currently, there's only a lock on Emily's door, like a deadbolt, basically.
Yeah.
And like, if I'm a robber, and I'm like a big burly robber man, and I see
Uh-huh.
this house, pretty easily accessible. I got
Yeah.
in, and now I
Yeah.
see this one door with a lock. I
Yeah,
feel
that
like
would
I'm gonna use my big body to break that door down and see what's
yeah,
inside. Like, I already
yeah.
broke in. Like, you
Yeah,
just made.
like there's two problems with the whole I put a lock on your door thing. For one, if there is only the one locked door, that's gonna be suspicious and they'll want to know if that's maybe where you keep all the good. The other
Yeah.
thing is if they already got in, probably your most valuable stuff like, television, computer, that kind of stuff, usually in the living room.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh hey, there's the TV. Oh hey, in this drawer is a wallet.
Hmm.
Let me just take all of that. Well, goodbye.
And,
I'm not gonna look around these other rooms and potentially wake people up.
but then if you did, now it's like, oh,
Oh, they
I'm
keep a
taking your
lot. I
goods,
wonder. I
and you're
wonder what's
not.
in this room.
And since it's Oregon, your newly legal daughter. Taking it all with me. Thank you for alerting me to this fine room.
Oh, well, that went directions.
I'm taking it all.
I'm taking everything I think I'm taking everything you love.
Yeah, because Raven's coming over.
Oh, oh.
Raven would look for the lock on the door.
Raven would look for the one young woman in the house and then take that and nothing else. I don't like that I said that, and I apologize,
I
but you know
like.
what I mean.
I mean, I got the ball rolling.
In his eyes, it would be that.
Yes. So then, so it's always my little nitpick, but whatever. The door's locked. I
I mean, you
guess.
make a good point. You do make a good point.
Yeah. But that night, Emily has her nightmares again, and Cassidy somehow hears her from the basement.
Okay, quick question.
Hmm.
So Emily's bedroom is on the ground floor, the first floor. Where
I
is
think
there an
it's
upstairs to this house? Is my question.
there is an upstairs, and I know that that's where Phil and Jane's bedroom is. I believe Emily's bedroom is on the ground floor,
Okay.
and The
That's
basement would be
still,
below that.
yeah, that's still a bit weird to then hear it from the basements.
But then in the beginning of the movie, before Jane had the baby monitor, she was
Yeah, they
able to
already,
come into
that's
her
true.
room when she had nightmares, but
Okay,
today she
so
didn't.
the floors,
But for some,
literally paper thin.
yeah. But also, even though Jane has been nothing but obsessing over Emily's safety and water phobia since the beginning of the movie, this time she doesn't hear anything. And Cassidy comes to the door, sees it's locked, and then goes outside the back door and then scales the wall, I guess, and opens Emily's window, climbs into her
So
room to
so we
comfort
don't
her.
so we don't see so you say scale the wall maybe like so we don't see her actually
We don't
scaling the wall
no,
or anything.
we don't see how she got into the room. Emily wakes up from her nightmare and she opens her eyes and there's her aunt and she's like, "How'd you get in? The door was locked." She's like, she just points to the window.
Okay.
So like, you and
Okay,
your
you
friend
know
were
what?
right. She's a little weird.
It's weird also at this point it's like if her bedroom is on the ground floor, then this lock was pointless in the first place because the window exists and is on the ground floor, and apparently it was just open or something.
Yeah.
Or easily openable from the outside, which windows usually are not. Usually they can
Right.
only be opened from the inside. That's why they're windows and not doors.
Right.
Oh
But
my god.
she got in and
Yeah, that's the important part.
yeah, she saved her. She comforted her. And
What a good
again,
mom.
but also she had time to do all this and the nightmare first of all was going on this long, which I think is possible, but like it seems like if she's been
Yeah,
having them
you
for
can be in the grips. You can be in the grips of a nightmare for quite a while before actually waking up.
I guess so, but at the same time it just seems like why didn't Jane hear this? Why
Yeah,
was this
that's
the one time? Especially
the
since this was like
one time.
this was at least a 3-minute nightmare if not more,
Yeah,
where she was
true.
loud enough to be heard from the basement.
Yeah, so how was she not heard from the first floor?
Yeah, I know. That's
Uh,
okay. Well, anyway,
Immersion broken.
suspension of disbelief cut right there. That's the only one.
Just cleaved in half.
Not at the insane asylum with old people waving their hands about. They had me
Uh,
there still. Okay, so while she's in the room, Emily's like, "Why does my mom say you hurt people?" And then Cassidy just asked, "How long have you had your nightmares?" And so nobody answers anybody. But then she says, "I can make your nightmares go away, but you have to trust me." Okay, do you trust her? You gonna let her help you make your nightmares go away?
no,
Oh,
I would be very afraid
well,
because that sounds creepy.
well. The next morning, Jay notices the open window, so she hires someone to put bars on the window.
Bars?
Yeah, and then Phil is like,
Are you trying to make your child feel like a prisoner?
well, and then he's like, "Is this really necessary?" And I'm like, okay, you know that she's been overreacting, but last you heard, Cassidy was capable of murder and attempted suicide.
Yeah.
Maybe she came back to finish the job.
I mean, yeah, maybe she just wants her
And
daughter back, but still that sounds like it
and
might she might not make the best of parents.
and again, maybe Jane's acting crazy, but again, at least she's just doing something. What are you doing, Phil? Smugly
Have
drinking
you
coffee,
Phil, have
cleaning
you
your
ever done
glasses.
anything outside of
Ugh.
just exist?
So then,
Come on,
and
Phil.
he's like, "I'm starting to worry about you." Coffee.
I'm
Okay.
starting to worry about you. Sip.
So now, again, we're at next swim lesson, and this time she's going into the pool.
Oh,
But
hey.
she's by
Facing
her.
your fears.
Yeah. But she's by herself.
That's not a
Like,
good idea.
I mean, they're in the pool, like instructor guy and the other students, but there's like a significant distance between the stairs, and them.
Wait, so she's just jumping in somewhere in the middle?
Well, she's like at the stairs. Like they're just
Okay.
so they're like
Oh, right, that. Okay, I got
yeah.
it.
So she's like taking each step, and he's like, "Okay, you can do it." And I'm like, I mean, I'm not even saying in a romantic way. And again, I feel like she should have like a therapist or a professional with her at the
Somebody
pool.
should be aware that this child has a phobia. That's
Right.
important knowledge to have.
Or at the very least, he should be holding her hand and helping her walk into the pool.
Yeah, and then, if she does panic, then you can quickly get her out so that
Right.
she can calm down.
So she gets all the way to the bottom step, and then she decides to just like jump the rest of the way basically. And
Sure,
um so
whatever.
then and she immediately freaks out. It's too much for her. She's flailing or whatever. And the guy, Mr. Hottie, goes to help her, and then the we just go to the supervisor, who's not said a word this whole movie, but he shakes his head like no, like she needs to do
What?
this kind of thing. And then she
What?
keeps panicking and freaking out, and then finally,
Somebody
what?
help somebody please help the teenager with a phobia.
Finally, he's like, okay, fine. And then he carries her out of the pool.
Oh
So
my
then
god. Can we
afterwards, he's
can like somebody need like I feel like that like that somebody there should have a court case flung at them.
yeah, like I just definitely feel like when mom was signing her up for swim lessons,
It, it,
it was mentioned like
yeah, it
because
was
even
why
like just
why why was she never like you've known for as long as you've had this child.
yeah,
You have known that she has aquaphobia, like she's afraid of water,
and
like incredibly intensely afraid of water.
anytime it's like, even if it's like for young children or teenagers, adults, anytime you sign up for like an extracurricular course, strictly out of like basic politeness, the whoever is signing you up is like, "Oh, what makes you want to take swim lessons?" And you'd be like, "Oh, well, I'm trying to get over my aquaphobia."
Yeah, like even if you're like, of course you have to consider this is a Lifetime movie.
Right.
Clearly, they don't have the best image of any kind of mental health issue or whatever. So
Right.
of course they will immediately also, write that into their characters that she is probably like ashamed of her aquaphobia, which up to a way I can get people being ashamed for their phobias. That's
Right.
it's that's understandable. But at the same time, this is about your safety both physically and mentally. Please take care of yourself and look out for yourself.
And again, your mom signed you up, so you know who's not embarrassed?
Also,
Your mom.
yes, it's like, mom, please, for like your for like the physical and mental health of your child. Please mention these kinds of things. Maybe look into actual therapy. And
Hmm.
maybe a therapist can be like, help her work her way towards taking a swim.
Yeah. So now Mr. Hottie walks her home, and he's like, "I'm so sorry. You weren't
As you
ready,
do.
and I pushed you." And then he
Okay,
asks,
that's some decency there. I can
yeah.
appreciate that.
And she's like, "It's okay." And he's like, "So those sedatives, you take those a lot?" And
What
she's
kind of
like,
question is that?
"I don't know." But then she's like, "When I need to." And so,
Why did you answer? You should have. No, the correct response should have been, "What? Excuse me?"
so then they have like this, they stop walking, and he turns to her, and he like offers his hand like for a shake. But they smile at each other, and she puts her hand in his, and then they hold hands for the rest of the walk.
Okay, sure, whatever.
So I guess they're a couple now?
I'm not touching that.
Okay, we're just gonna move along.
Yeah,
So
please.
she's like gushing with her friend, like, we held hands, and then Cassidy comes into her
Uh,
room and is like, take a walk with me. Meanwhile, uh Jane has started smoking again because she's just really
so stressed.
Yeah. And the partner's like, hey, I can listen. So they go get some coffee together. And he's like, acts concerned, and he's like, but 15 years is a lot of therapy. Maybe she is better. And I'm like, did you not mention the murder and attempted suicide? Because that's not something you want around your daughter.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? If he doesn't know the situation, he does bring up a good point. 15 years is a long time. Maybe, she actually had some kind of breakthrough or whatever. Maybe, I mean, you don't know, like, as far as you know,
Yeah.
she might be taking medication. Like,
Yeah, as far as he knows, it's just like extreme postpartum depression that she had.
yeah, like postpartum depression, or she also apparently already had like from what I understand, a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. So as far as he knows, it could be those things,
So,
and therapy in those cases can help. So
right.
he's just trying to reassure his
Yeah.
colleague,
And be
which,
like
good thing.
devil's advocate and all that or whatever. So now we go back to Cassidy. She asked Emily to take a walk with her, and they're walking on this bridge, like this bypass over the ocean, basically. This bridge. And Emily's like, why didn't you want me to tell Phil? And she was like, I didn't want him to stop us. And I'm like, like Phil's stopping you, okay?
Yeah,
You
come on.
might get a displeased,
Have you met Phil?
at best. At
Have you
best.
met Phil? Have you met your brother-in-law or future brother-in-law?
I was like, that's so cute.
Phil has the emotional wherewithal of a rock. Except
Oh
that
my.
except you can actually get emotionally attached to a pet rock. I don't think one can get emotionally attached to Phil.
I think he just makes really good meatloaf.
It's all because of the meatloaf, I tell you.
Okay, so then they're walking and she's like, the bridge is beautiful. And then at this point I feel the conversation took a sharp left turn. Emily says,
Yeah?
I used to be afraid of it because so many people have driven off of it. They didn't see the reversible lane meter change. And then suddenly there's all this oncoming traffic. A boy rode his bike
Uh,
off this bridge because he didn't want his parents to find out he was failing.
oh
Okay, Emily,
damn.
you are very bleak right now, but
Emily, are you
alright.
Emily, are you okay? Do you need someone to talk to, Emily?
Well, what is Cassidy's next question to this? Do you want to take a guess?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I couldn't ever get that. Like,
You
I
want to
would,
try?
if it was me,
Okay.
because let's just go with that, because I will never get this right.
Okay.
But if it was me, I would ask, I would start simple. I would just ask how she's doing. Like,
Hmm.
are you okay?
Okay. Well, here's
You
what
know?
Cassidy asks her.
Yeah, I'm already afraid.
You ever think about suicide? And
Maybe ease into that a little bit.
then Emily says,
Maybe just
no.
don't throw it
Well,
out there like that.
well, then Emily says, no. Well, sometimes. How about you? And then she says, yeah, in the hospital. And then Emily says, I think it would be just like falling asleep. All your troubles would float
No.
away. And then Cassidy looks at the ocean
Stop
with a
with
small
the.
smile. So,
No, not the one small smile.
is this a suicide pact? What?
I mean, I don't think it's a suicide pact. I think it's just two people who have some issues
But aren't
are.
they're not trying to like
No, no,
work?
I don't think they're trying. Like, I personally don't interpret that as them, making any kind of pact or whatever. I think it's just two people who are dealing with a lot of stuff in their lives, um, having a bad case of suicide ideation. And
Okay.
you know what? As someone who went through that, I
Mm,
get it. I get it.
okay.
I get it. But I don't think they're actually. Well, maybe because it's a Lifetime movie. Definitely, actually, now that I think about it and remember that this is a Lifetime movie. Definitely Cassidy, because we already knew that she tried to commit suicide once while also killing her husband.
Right.
So, on her part, probably. On Emily's part, I don't think so.
Okay. And I'm with you there. So
Mm-hmm.
now we find out that Jane has put a tracker on either Cassidy or Emily, one of them. And she sees that they're by the bridge, and so she bails, and her supervisor notices
Yep,
that she's leaving work early.
sure.
So we're just seeing more of her life falling apart. Later, Emily's in her room and she notices the bars on her window, and then she talks to Phil, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll admit it's overkill. You already need a ladder to
Yeah.
get to the second floor, because now I guess there's bars on all the windows, including
Oh.
theirs." Um,
Oh. Okay. Let's
and
just make my house look like a prison, I guess.
yeah. So then Cassidy comes in and she gives Phil a chocolate bar, and she's like, "Thanks for letting me stay here. And could you give this to Janie later?" And she gives her a framed photo of the two of them when they were little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jane gets home and she asks Emily, "Were you on the bridge?" And Emily's like, "Yeah, Cassidy was helping me get used to the water. And then I made it over the bridge." And then Jane is like really happy about that because that is progress for her aquaphobia. But Cassidy is dangerous and she doesn't want to see her get hurt.
Yeah.
Also, when she walks in, Emily poured fish food into the bowl. And then at the end of the conversation, Jane poured more food into the fish bowl, and I feel like they're overfeeding their fish.
Well, those fish are dead.
Right? Okay. But, oh well. I guess, I mean,
Well, time to get new fish.
ah, whatever helps her aquaphobia, I guess.
Like nothing that cures aquaphobia like murdering fish.
Yeah.
It's all your fault, you fish.
Oh my gosh. And so then, uh, Jane has a dream flashback, and as a little girl, she's screaming, and Cassidy, as a little girl, is like pushing her back, like, "Stay out of here, Janie." And then Janie's like, "Dad, wait, no. Cassidy made him fall so that she could watch you shoot him." But then the dad doesn't hear that and he shoots the horse. So that's what this big deal about the horse is. That apparently
Ah,
Cassidy rigged it so that their dad could shoot a horse.
yeah, rigged it so that Dad would think this horse is dangerous and I need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's just a wreck at work. She's driving, and the partner's like, "You okay to drive?" And she's like, "Yeah, I just need a morning cup of coffee." But then she almost crashes into a car and some road work cones and signs. And then her partner's like, "Get out of the car." And then
Yeah.
they switch seats. And then this
Mm-hmm.
I think is a good line. He's like, "You can kill yourself in your own time, but you're not taking me with you." And then he tries, I guess,
Okay.
like he says it so like intense. And it's like, I mean, at the same time, like, she wasn't driving
so up,
safely, but
so upset.
he's so mad.
I
Um,
mean, maybe it's just it's some tough love,
yeah,
like letting a person know, like, do you realize what you're doing?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I would personally be a bit more sensitive about that, but
I,
I can accept it. I can accept it.
yeah, same, I guess, is where I'm at. But, like, I mean, in the heat of the moment, he might have been shaken up or whatever, so it's fine.
Yeah, he might have been a bit shaken up, so it was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. So, she steals some more surveillance equipment, and then her supervisor calls her into the office, and he's like, "You've been leaving work early. You're not turning in your reports. A woman called in and said she saw you picking up your daughter from school. So, like, I like you, but whatever you're going through, you need to go fix it." So he gives her a card so she could go talk to the department therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So Cassidy goes into this shop and she like talks to the guy and she's like, "Hey, I want to take my daughter camping. Is there anywhere private with a lake?"
Mm-hmm. Ah.
And he says, "Yeah, you can go up to blah blah blah. It's about 40 miles out. The only thing is, it's bad to swim there this time of year because the undercurrents are super unpredictable." Cassidy says, "Sounds perfect."
Oh.
So Jane is taking a walk with Phil, and she's like, the doctor said that she's projecting her fear of losing Emily onto Cass. And again, did she not disclose the crime that got Cassidy into the hospital? But
Apparently not.
whatever. She's like, how were your exams, Phil? And he's like, they were good. And then he gives her the framed picture. And he's like, it's sweet. And then she's like, Cassidy's trying to drive a wedge between us. And then Phil's just like, maybe she really is getting better. They get home and she goes to check on the surveillance equipment she put on her sister. And Phil brings her a sandwich and he's like, you've never looked at those flowers before. And she's like, oh, wow, look at that sandwich. I'm sure am hungry. So
Uh-huh.
then she gives Cass.
Again, Phil, really good with food.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. He's a little suspicious.
I'm sure that doesn't go anywhere. That would actually be interesting.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So then, she's got huge bags in her eyes, at this point in the movie, and, she's
She's just
driving.
falling apart at this point.
Yeah, she's driving out, and she sees Cassidy walking, and so she's like, hey, here's a gift. I saw that, frame photo. That was cute or whatever. You didn't have to. Here's a pen. Cassidy immediately realizes that it's a recording device of some kind and reports her to the police. And then she's back in her boss's office. And he's like, what? I said to
What
use this
were you
equipment.
doing?
You need to check with me. I need your gun and your
Yeah.
badge. You're going on medical leave. And she's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
He's like, you were spying on a civilian with no warrant. You violated the Fourth Amendment. And again, I didn't authorize any of this. She's
Yeah, you know what? He has a point.
And she's like, fine, I can get myself home. So she gets home, and Emily is on the porch with a bag packed. Where are you going? She asks, and then Emily's like, I'm going camping with Cassidy. What? You didn't tell me that. Emily's like, because you wouldn't have let me. And she's like, well, I'm definitely not letting you now. And then they have this argument. And then Cassidy comes. And then Emily like grabs her bag back from Jane. And she runs into the car and she throws her bag in the back. And then Jane is like, no, Emily, don't go with her. Don't go with her. And then Cassidy peels out.
What? That's amazing.
It was so intense. Jane is screaming. And she's like, ah. And she runs into the house and she's like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And
Do you
then,
not have another car?
well, she drove her car home. She has a civilian car.
Okay, then just get in your
Well,
car and go.
anyway, she's freaking out. And now her partner knocked on the door. Oh, wait. No, she went inside to get the tracker because she still has a GPS tracker on them. And she's going to
Ah,
follow
okay,
them.
okay. Smart,
Yeah.
smart, smart.
But then there's a knock on the door and it's her partner. At first, she's like, this isn't a good time. Wait. Actually, could you come in? And he's like, yeah, I just want to make sure you're okay. She's like, okay, would you like some coffee? And he's like, yeah, Phil's studying for something. Would you mind looking at the faucet upstairs? How he knows where that is. I believe this is
The
the first.
faucet
I
upstairs.
believe this is the first time he's ever set foot in her home.
The
But
I mean,
fine.
considering he is a relatively new partner, yeah.
I don't even know how much time has even lapsed in this movie. I don't even think it's been a week.
I don't
Whatever.
think I don't think time actually exists in Lifetime movies.
Just avoid.
It's just all time dilation. Like everything actually happens at the exact same moment.
So then, uh, so he sets his stuff down. He's like, "Yeah, I'll go take a look at it." And so she grabs his
At this
gun.
faucet that I magically know where it is.
Yeah, so he's upstairs, and she immediately grabs his gun and his keys, and she takes the car, and she's on chase.
Oh my
And he calls her, and he's like, "You need to get back here right now, or I'm calling the police, or I'm calling it in." And she's like, "Look, do what you gotta do. I'm saving my
god.
daughter." And so he calls it in. Now he's on chase.
Yeah.
Now back to the car. They're on the freeway now.
Hmm.
Emily says, "So is it nice where we're going?" And this is her answer to that. Ugh, the freeways are a lot busier now.
That's not an answer to the question.
No.
This
Why
is
are
like
you
one
in
of those
such a
things
hurry
where
for a camping trip?
these are like cases of like characters not having a conversation but just kind of talking at each other.
Yeah. I guess they wanted us to know that she's just in a hurry to get to the campsite.
Yeah, but even then, it feels like she could have just given like an actually. She could have just said like it feels like one of those situations where it's like, why though? She could have just said, "Oh yeah, it's very pretty. I can't wait to get there." Like then you have an answer to the question, and you make it very clear that she's in a hurry.
Right. Well, then, uh, Cassidy pulls a bag from the back and gives it to her. And then, as Emily looks at it, she's like, "There's a lake where we're going?" And she's like, "Yeah, you just have to trust me. We're gonna go
Mhm.
slowly into the water together.
Okay, sure.
This water that we know has unpredictable undercurrents."
Yeah, I mean
So,
you can go slow. That doesn't mean the water will.
anyway, so then they get there, and then Emily's like, "Why don't you have a travel bag?" Cassidy says, "You need to trust me. This will all be over soon." She looks
Okay,
pretty freaked out, but still gets out of the car.
like that's the moment, like that's the point at which if I were to get out of the car, I would then just run in a direction.
Right. Well, I don't know how much time passed between Jane joining them in pursuit, because now she's like in the forest and she's like looking through to find them. But when she finds them, they're basically like at the shore of the beach. They have a fire made.
Oh, nice.
They basically like they've made camp. They had enough time.
Yeah, it's like it feels like if you really were in a hurry, because Cassidy, it feels like she has to know that Jane is after them.
Right. And then um Emily sees her mom, and then Jane is like, "Shh, don't say anything yet." If you're Emily, what do you do?
Stay quiet.
Okay, well, Emily immediately yells out, "Mom, why's your gun out?" And then Jane's like, "She's trying to kill you." And then
Oh
Emily's like,
my.
"Then this is Emily's response to that. This is her defense." Okay, now if you're going to defend that, what would you say?
I wouldn't even make an attempt to defend that. I would just say like, oh.
Well, Emily says, "She said she would never hurt me.
How do you? Mm.
She's trying to kill you." "No, she said she would never hurt me."
Yeah, because if somebody is gonna kill you, they're just gonna tell you to your face, "Hey, I'm gonna murder you now."
Of course.
That's just how you do. That's
Yeah.
that's how that's how people do.
So then Jane is like, "Why do you think she brought you somewhere so isolated?" And then Cassidy's like, "I want us to go in the water together, Emily. I never hurt you." Then she tells Emily, "I'm your mom." And then Jane says, "I'm your mom. I'm the one who raised you." And then Cassidy says, "She was just jealous your dad loved me and not her." And then,
Oh,
what?
oh my!
Then Cassidy says,
How
"Tell,"
is Emily supposed to like process any of this?
well,
Like, she just has these two adults just yelling at her.
and then, then Cassidy says, "Tell her the truth." And so then we go back to the flashback, and then Dad's going to give her a bath. And then he walks up, like, "Say goodnight to your mom." And then Cassidy kisses, like, the baby's feet, and she's like, "Ugh, bye, baby." And then she's talking to Jane, and she's like, "I'm so tired since I haven't really slept since she's been born. How am I going to be a good wife and mother?" And then Jane is like, "Ugh,
Yeah, a lot of things that sound very much like postpartum depression.
yeah." And then Jane's like, "Ugh, spare me your self pity. You have a husband who adores you and a baby. What do I have?" And she's like, "I wish I could
Oh
share
my.
them with you, Janie." And she's like, "I don't want your charity. You always got everything." And she's like, "You know what? Maybe we had too much wine. I'm a little dizzy. I'm gonna go upstairs." And then she's like, "Ugh, I hate you, Jane. Or I hate you, Cassidy. I mean." And so then we go back to the present, and then um Jane is like, "No, Emily, she's mixing it all up." And then Cassidy's like, "No, tell her the truth." And then Emily's like, "What happened?" So now we go back to
Yeah, cause Emily doesn't like Emily's so confused at this point.
yeah. So then it turns out that Jane was the shooter. And so then we
What?
jump back. Yeah, Jane killed him. And then Uh,
Okay, I did not see that twist coming.
no, and it was so fast. And then we go back to the present, and now Jane's holding a gun and she's angling it at everybody. And then she just lunges at Cassidy, and now they're rolling in the sand, dirt, looking for
What?
the gun. And Emily is just her life is a wreck right now. So like,
I feel so bad for Emily right now.
aquaphobia is the least of her problems,
Yeah,
though.
no, you're right. You're very much right.
So maybe they'll, silver lining.
Okay, like she has to be at this moment like, who killed my dad? Which one of these two ladies is my mom? And is one of them gonna kill the other now?
Okay, well, here's basically the movie's almost over.
Good. I mean, this did feel like a very climaxy moment.
Yeah, so Jane gets the gun and she's like, he should have loved me, not you. This time I won't miss your heart. And then the police show up and they're like, stop right there. And then it turns out that um Cassidy got her memory back in the hospital. So then she worked with the police and they planned this like as a sting operation. And
Oh,
then here's something weird. Phil sort of like slides in next to the police detective and he has his like arms like, whoa, but like what's going on here kind of thing. And it's like, one, Phil, who called you?
Phil, why are you here?
Yeah. And then, anyway, so she gets taken in.
Like,
And,
seriously, Phil, why are you here?
well, and we're only going to you're going to keep asking that the last few minutes of the movie because, so he's there, the police are taking her away, and then Emily's like, I love you, Mom, and she, like, cries, and she's, like, off to get the help she needs. Now, they're at this isolated campsite. Cassidy is holding Emily, and they're hugging. And we see the
Mm-hmm.
police walking off. Not asking any,
Why?
because like, wouldn't you need a report of some sort? Wouldn't you need? But Phil is also leaving with them.
I mean,
This girl, Emily, has known Cassidy maybe a week. She's known
yeah,
Phil at least a year or so. Does he want to
yeah.
check in on her?
Phil, do
Does
you have
he?
no. Okay, so I was gonna ask, Phil, do you have no emotional connection to this girl? Then I remembered we're talking about Phil.
And he's just leaving. He doesn't even so much as look back. And so then we go back to the flashback, and I don't know what this is supposed to tell me, but
Oh.
Cassidy's riding the horse, and she's like, Dad, look, Janie's watching. She could take a turn to ride. And he's like, Janie, go back in the house. I told you, honey, she's too small to ride without no one watching her. And I'm like, but aren't you right
You're
here?
there!
You're literally
You're
holding the
there!
lead to the horse as
You
Cassidy.
dead be.
What?
What? You weird dad
So
guy.
then she is like, Cassidy, you think you're so perfect? She rips the doll head off. So I guess that's supposed to show us that everything that happened was reversed. And so then the camera pans up and so then we go back to Cassidy and Jane hugging, and she's like, I love my sister, I just want her to be okay. And we see that Jane is now behind barred windows, and and then the final flashback, this is what the movie ends on. That picture that Cassidy had framed, they're posing for that picture and the dad's taking it. And Cassidy kisses Jane's forehead and she's like, I love you, sister, kind of thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
Jane crosses her arms, and then that's the picture that they got. And then credits.
Okay then. Okay. First thing I want to say.
Mhm,
First thing I want to say. I want to get this out of the way.
mhm,
Credit to the movie for a twist I did not see coming.
mhm.
On the other hand, how much I didn't see it coming also I feel counts against it. Because a good twist, this is important, for a good twist, there should be signs, right?
Mhm.
You should be able to a second time through a movie or a book or whatever. you should be able to start seeing the signs of the twist coming up. Like if there's like a betrayal and you
Yeah.
look back on things or whatever, there should be signs. They deliberately like change the flashbacks and the memories to make it very, to try and almost drive the point home that Cassidy is the quote unquote crazy one.
Yeah, why did she buy her a bathing suit and take her to this lake and
Yeah, like all of those things, and you need to trust me, and like, okay, so you can sort of take that as then being, you need to trust me because I'm about to catch a criminal who basically stole you from me or something. But at the same time, it's like I'm more talking about like the flashbacks, because of
Yeah.
course I haven't seen the movie, of course, but I feel like the way you describe the flashbacks makes it very clear what you're supposed to see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way they could justify it is because that was her point of view.
Right, but even then, if she,
Or that's what she was telling Phil. But
yeah, yeah, okay, like in that sense, I guess you could twist it that way.
it's
Yeah, okay.
still really treading the line between being a twist and just lying to your audience because
Yeah, because there is a difference between those things.
yeah. So,
Anyway, moving on from that, again, it's just so many examples of Lifetime movie writers not seeming to know how people interact with one another in a lot of things.
yeah.
Well, all otherwise I really have to say is that sounds like a movie we should totally watch together sometime because I am pretty curious in actually seeing all of those things happen on screen.
Yeah. So, this was a sister's nightmare. Thank you for joining me, Yella, on this wild adventure.
No problem. I had a wild adventure for sure.
Okay. All right. Bye.